Hey everyone, I'm Iggie, and in December 2019, I had a bone marrow transplant for sickle cell. Today, I'm going to share with you a bit about my transplant journey for the Anthony Nolan Share and Support vlog series. So I'm going to do a Q&A format for this, and I'm going to be answering 5 short questions to tell you guys a bit more about my transplant. Question 1. So what was it like to be diagnosed with sickle cell and to be told you need a bone marrow transplant? So I was born with sickle cell. It's a genetic disease, so I've had it all my life, and it wasn't until I was about 18 that I really started having problems with it. So I was in the hospital a lot. I was having to stay in the hospital a lot, so I was missing a lot of school. I completely lost my quality of life. So it was the kind of thing where I had to really just decide that I needed the bone marrow transplant because I didn't really have any other options. And with sickle cell, you find that we don't really have cures. So this was the closest thing that came to a cure. So that was what I had to decide to do. And really, I would say it was really frightening, of course. I think also because I was 18 at the time, I felt like I was doing it quite late. So I was quite scared to go ahead with it. But at the same time, I felt like it was my only option if I really wanted to have a better quality of life. So yeah, frightening, but at the end of the day, quite glad I did that. Question 2. How did you feel about needing the bone marrow transplant? I felt, at first I was really scared, of course, because even when I was younger, I had looked at the bone marrow transplant. So I mean, just as someone that had sickle cell, it was the kind of thing I just like kept up to date with. And I mean, at the time I was quite skeptical about it because I just felt like it was quite intense and it was risky, and most things people usually feel. But by the time I think I went down the process and I started the process really, and I was meeting the people that would help along the way and just kind of setting out how the transplant was going to go, it felt a lot easier. And I guess having my family with me as well, that was also quite helpful because I live in the UK, but I got my transplant done in the US. So it was also a big move for us at the time, and we ended up being in the US for about 6 months. So all in all, it was definitely really scary. But I was quite reassured at the fact that I could potentially have a better life after doing this transplant. So I was quite excited, I would say, for what could have possibly come after. So I think by the time I really did start the transplant, I was just quite comfortable knowing that I could hopefully get through it and everything would be good after. Question 3. How was the experience of having the bone marrow transplant? So I would definitely say that the bone marrow transplant was by far one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing I've ever done. And that's not in a scary way, but it's just more like the amount that your body goes through in that time is so much. And in a lot of the cases, before you even come into the transplant, you're already doing quite poorly. So to go through the chemo and everything just makes it like 10 times more intense. So for me, that was definitely the hardest part about that. And I felt like that just made it a lot harder. So it was definitely tough, but I really enjoyed it because even despite having to move somewhere else for the transplant, I felt like I met a lot of nice people. I felt like I was able to experience a different culture for once. And I mean, that kind of thing is always quite interesting. And even being away from my family a bit, of course, made that quite hard because being in America, I couldn't really see my friends and family as much. So that, of course, in itself made it harder. But overall, I would really say my experience with the transplant was quite good because at the same time, I don't think I had a lot of bad side effects during the transplant. So from the things I had also heard, I am definitely grateful for that. But yeah, overall tough but rewarding. Question 4. How would you describe your recovery? For me, recovery was most definitely the hardest part of the transplant, and a lot of that being because I feel like the change your body goes through in that time is incredible, and keeping up with it is also not as easy because for someone like me, I had spent, the last 20 years of my life with sickle cell. So I guess having your body change on you like completely, and having all these little differences and what your body like accepts and doesn't accept anymore, and just the whole range of different things are going on with your body at the time, was definitely a lot to keep up with for me, and very foreign to me, very new. So at the same time, you have life going on, but you kind of need to keep going with whatever you have going on. So for me, I had school when I got back, and I had to kind of get on with school despite having all these changes going on with my body. And this is about a year after transplant. So I still feel like, yeah, that was actually quite hard because till now I'm about a year and a few months in after having my transplant, and I'm still experiencing a lot of those changes now. I think hopefully I'm getting at, the nice end of all those changes, but I'm definitely at a point where I feel like, yeah, I can understand how my body works a lot better. But initially, yeah, that was really, really hard. But aside from that, I would also say the mental health side of things is another really, really tough part of recovery because, of course, with all the changes in your body, your mind is also going to process all those things quite differently. And even having, gone away for the transplant, life has gone on, and that's in about, a whole year's worth of time. And it's a lot to kind of adjust to when you come back. And I guess, for us as people, we all go through these things differently. So it was one part of the transplant that I don't know, I guess I didn't expect it, because I guess no one's ever going to tell you that you might feel all these certain things. But it was definitely one side of things that made me feel like, whoa, this was actually quite tough, because having to, just adjust mentally, physically, and just kind of get on with life despite everything going on with you, and kind of adjust to everything as well, is never quite easy. But looking back now, I'm also glad I had all those experiences, because it's also really helped me in terms of, getting on with life post-transplant. I really do feel like I had enough time and enough recovery time to think of myself all the way from, my physical needs to my mental needs. And that's the best thing you can do for yourself. So, yeah. So the final question 5, what is life like for you now? So compared to where I started before the transplant, I had dropped out of university because, of course, my health got in the way. I had lost my quality of life completely. I was basically bedridden. Like, it was actually really bad. Like, an 18-year-old at the time, 19-year-old, I wasn't seeing friends. I was always in bed. I was always in the hospital. Like, it was a whole thing, but 1 year down the line after transplant, and I'm back in university, I feel like I am looking so much better than I probably looked in my entire life. And I'm really grateful, I have to say. Really grateful for going through the transplant successfully. Even recovery in itself, that can always be tough. You always still have to be careful. And in a pandemic as well, I can only be very, very, very grateful for where life is today. I'm happy and I'm doing well. And yeah, I can't complain. I honestly can't. But I hope you guys enjoyed all this content. I hope I've given you a little bit of an insight into my journey. Thank you to Anthony Nolan for this vlog and for the opportunity. And what can I say? If anyone is interested in my story and more on my transplant story, then please check out the Ahime Foundation on Instagram. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you.